Now, here's the part where you choose which AI assistant. It will ask you for various permissions. Yeah, I'll just is that if you are a product owner, right, and if you're using SpecKit, it's very easy for you to create a user stories. Essentially, you need episodes. There should be a tag to it. There should be about page. There should be a fact. It has followed exactly what we have told it to. Hello and welcome back to a new episode of Code Signing. So the latest in thing nowadays is SDD or Spec-Driven Development. And this is what Spec Kit is all about. This is an offering from GitHub, and we will be learning in detail on what we can do with Spec Kit. Essentially, how can we build an application using Spec Kit? Now, what are its advantages? What are its disadvantages? So let's get rolling. So what exactly are we going to learn today? So we will be learning about the different commands that we can use in the GitHub SpecKit workflow. So the commands that I'll be covering is the SpecKit dot constitution command, which essentially defines the project principles, the dot specify command, which creates baseline specifications, the dot plan, which builds the implementation plan, the dot tasks, which generates actionable tasks, dot implement, which executes the implementation. And optionally, what would I would also be covering are commands such as dot clarify, which essentially asks structured questions to de-risk ambiguity. Dot analyze, which checks the cross artifact consistency. And finally, dot checklist, which validates requirements for completeness and clarity. I'll be implementing all these commands, and I'll try to build an app using this command so that you essentially understand how these all fit in together. Okay, so let's get started. Before we move on to the actual setup and implementation, it is important to understand why do we need spec-driven development, okay, in the world that we live in. So the current world, at least the current coding world, is AI dominated. So we use AI tools and agents to build our applications, and mostly we will be using vibe coding to do this. Now the issue with vibe coding is that for those of you who have used vibe coding, is that you would be entering something in the prompt, the AI spits out something, you'll be refining it, and eventually you will see the AI either going into a loop because it does not understand you correctly, or because it does not understand what it has previously generated. And if it runs into an error, it is an ever ending iteration of loops upon loops, which eats up all your tokens. Once you are somewhat done with your coding, okay, say you get that managed, you manage the prompts, the refinement, you go through the pain and everything, the documentation of that code is the last thing that you would do, isn't it? So you would build a scaffolding around the code, which is a documentation. So it's code, then your documentation, which is your spec actually. So it is not spec driven. Now what spec driven development is all about is it flips this paradigm. Okay, so it is spec first and then the code. So the idea is that if you have defined a spec well enough, the AI agent would generate exactly what you asked it to generate with minimum iterations. So it would actually ask you to specify what you want to build. It would ask you to clarify if it has any doubts, and then it would proceed to do the build. And the whole idea behind all of this is that this would reduce the time the AI takes to generate the right app for you. Okay, hope that makes sense. I am on the page github.com/github/spec-kit, and this is the official GitHub repo for SpecKit. So whatever I am doing in this video, whatever commands I'm running is actually borrowed from this repo here. Just putting it out there. Okay. So the first thing you would need to do is to install UV in your system if you do not already have it. So UV is the Python project and package manager. So install it and then run this command which I've highlighted here. Okay. Once you run this using a command prompt, it should install a spec kit in your system. I am using a Windows system, so it worked fine in my system. And these commands, or whatever commands that I'm showing, are system neutral or OS neutral. So it should be fine whether you're on a Mac system or a Linux or a Windows. It should work just as fine. Okay. So make sure you have installed SpecKit, and we'll see what we can do from there on. I am using Visual Code Insiders for this demo. You can use Visual Code. Doesn't make a difference here. So essentially, the first thing that I would need to check is that I can use SpecKit, that my system or my IDE is SpecKit ready. And the way I do it is I open the terminal, yeah, and I do run the command specify check. Okay. So what this will do is essentially it will bring up what all AI agents or tools is available in my IDE or my system there. So it says, yeah, these are the tools that are available. So I have Git version control, I have GitHub Copilot, I have Cloud Code, I have Gemini CLI. Now, you would not need all of this. You would need Git version control. So you would need GitHub installed, and you would also need at least one of these AI agents or tools listed below. So anyone is fine. And this list will get bigger in the future because they are adding new agents as we speak. Okay. So it supports, as you can see, it supports a whole host of agents there. You can choose your pick. This is what is available on my system there, and it says specify CLI is ready to use. Now let's move on to the next. So let me maximize this terminal so that I have more screen state. Right. Now what I'll do is I'll initialize my spec-kit here, and the command is specify space init space dot. The dot specifies that I want to initialize spec-kit in this folder. Okay. And in case you are outside this folder, right, you can specify this folder name and say that this is where I want to create mm, or I want to initialize SpecKit, and it will create that folder for you. In my case, since I'm already inside the folder I want to be, which is demo underscore tutorial site, I just say specify init dot and it will initialize. Now, here's the part where you choose which AI assistant you want. Remember, I told you that you would need an AI assistant. And if you look at the official videos of SpecKit, what they would usually be using is Copilot there, and understandably so because Copilot belongs to GitHub, so it is GitHub Copilot. But what I'll be using for this demo is Gemini. The reason being that it is free. So Google has very generously offered 1 million tokens to all its users, and it's free of use. So you just need a Google account there. So I think this will work for most of you. But if you have Copilot, okay, feel free to use Copilot. So I'll be using Gemini. So let me select Gemini. And Copilot now gives me an option of either choosing a Bash shell or PowerShell. Now you will notice that it is clever enough to understand that I am on a Windows system and it defaults to PowerShell. So this is what I will be using. Okay, and that's it. We are all set to go. Let me close the Copilot window here. Okay. Because I'm not using Copilot, I don't need Copilot. And this will give me more screen space, right? So as soon as I finished the previous command, you would see it gave me what I need to do next. So essentially, it is telling me that this is what you need to run. Okay, the next you need to run your constitution, which establishes my project principles, and then specify plan, task, implement, and optionally, these are some enhancement commands that I can run with it. On the left hand side, you will notice that my demo underscore tutorial site now has two folders, dot Gemini, because I'm using the Gemini model. If I had used Copilot, it would be dot Copilot, and I've dot specify. And within it are some subfolders that SpecKit needs in order to do what it does. Okay, so make sure these folders are there. So if you have set up things correctly, this is how your structure should look like, or it should be something similar in any way there. So let's start with constitution. Okay, let's see what it does. Now let us set up the constitution. What is the constitution? So you can think of the constitution as being a non-transgressible boundary within which your AI agent or assistant needs to operate. So essentially, it is a set of immutable laws which your AI assistant has to obey. Okay. So you could essentially tell it that I do not want you to use, say, a set programming language. So I could tell it, for example, do not use VB, or I could tell it that use only AWS as your for your cloud implementation, and it would need to follow that strategy. So essentially, it is the boundary within which your AI assistant needs to operate. So the command for creating the constitution is slash speckit uh, dot constitution. Now, if till this point you have loaded your spec it correctly, what should ideally happen is that it should auto suggest the options you have once you type in slash spec it. It's not happening here. Okay, so what you see in the grayed out area is something that I had tried before. It's not something that is being suggested by spec it as a tool here, and there's a very good reason why it's not suggesting that, which I will come to in a minute. Okay, so essentially I'll just type it in by hand here. So I'll just say slash spec dot constitution, and I'll give a very high level description of the constitution, which essentially is fill the constitution with the bare minimum requirements for a static web page app based on the template. It doesn't matter what you give, because essentially you can go back and you can amend it here. But what I wanted to show you here or demo here is that this will not work, right? It does not work, because essentially what has happened here is that we have not yet loaded our AI assistant. Now, if you're using something like GitHub Copilot, this would work, because this command would be something you would enter within Copilot. So you would have launched Copilot, it is there sitting and ready for you to enter those commands here. Here we have not entered, we have not loaded our AI assistant, which is Gemini. So let me load Gemini. Okay. And there you go. So Gemini, I've loaded Gemini, right? And now, if I try to type in spec it brings out all the options as a drop down. So see what I mean? So now it works correctly, right? So slash spec kit dot constitution. It will ask you for various permissions. Yeah, I'll just say yes, allow always. And it's creating this new files for me. Okay, right. So you can see it has now created within its memory, it has created the constitution.md, and it has created a plan hyphen dot template dot md here. So this essentially would be within your specify memory, and you have your constitution created right here. Right. If you wanted, you could go in and edit it. So just go through the constitution. And this is something I cannot emphasize enough. Always review what the AI assistant or agent has generated. Okay. So never trust it fully. So if you are working in an enterprise or in a corporation, make sure that you review the contents and it is what you expect it to be. But since this is a demo, I'm just going to say, yeah, it's fine. It's this is what it should be: content first and semantic HTML performance. I'm just giving it a cursory glance. It looks okay. If I wanted, I could add anything here. I could redact it. I could update it, whatever I wanted. So by now, what we have done is we have successfully created our constitution. Now the next step is that we build the specs. Okay, so let me maximize this, and what I'll do again, I'll just go for spec kit. It automatically brings up uh, the options available, and I will select specify, which is create or update the feature specification from a natural language feature description, right? So I'll select it, and what I'll ask it here is that I'm building a tutorial website. Okay, let me just try to format this a bit. It looks terrible, isn't it? Right. Let me just format this a bit so that it's more readable. Yeah. So I'm building a modern tutorial website. I want it to stand out. Should have a landing page with one featured video tutorial. There should be an episode page, an about page, and a FAQ page. Should have 10 episodes, data IDs mocked, and you do not need to pull anything from the real feed. Quite a simple thing. So let's see what it does when I give it this specifications and I hit enter. You'll immediately notice that starts by saying, I'll start by creating a feature specification for the tutorial website. Now, the way SpecKit works is that whenever you do a new specify command, okay, uh, it will treat it as a new feature. So, for example, you are in a already existing project and you're running SpecKit from there. Very much possible you would do exactly the same steps that you do here, uh, right? And when you reach this point, this is where you would specify that I'm going to add a new feature. Now, since this is a completely new app, okay, this is the first feature it has in it. And what it will do immediately is it will create a new GitHub branch there. So it does not want to mess up the actual code branch that you have. The original code branch will stay intact, and it will create a new branch where your feature changes will be. Okay, so this is what it's essentially saying, that I'll start by creating a feature specification for the tutorial website, and it's saying this is what I'll do, and I'll can you shall I do the execution of JIT? Okay, so I'll say yes, you can do it. So to do a JIT fetch of my branches there, and since I have two accounts, it will ask me which account I want to choose. So I'll just choose an account there, and it will fetch the removed branches. You can see it's checking the feature, analyzing the existing branches. Yes. Well, what does it want to do? Let me just check it. So it's saying I will tutorial website scaffolds, execution of fine string. Yeah, I'm going to allow it to do that. Yeah. What else does it want? Just make sure that you read what it wants to do. Okay. Yeah, check for existing spec directories. So it's trying to find if any directories exist with that particular string. Again, since I have two accounts in GitHub, it just asks me to pick up which account it wants to check it. Yeah, it says it does not find any existing feature, so it's going to say uh, I'm building the one. Okay, so I'm building the feature. So it understands that this is a brand new project, brand new app, since it did not find anything remotely similar to the feature that we wanted. So I'll say yes, allow that. it will have some security exceptions, but the AI agent should be clever enough to understand that an exception has occurred and try to bypass it. Okay? So it understands that it needs a PowerShell to actually bypass the security policies of the system. And that's what it's doing, circumventing policy obstacles. Quite clever. And now it's initiating the specification features, passing spec template. By the way, I have a GitHub MCP server connected to this, and maybe I'll do a video on it later on how you can connect MCP servers to Gemini. So this will fasten up the process, but in case you do not have it, it should still work. Yeah. So it says, I will now write the detailed specification for the modern tutorial website to the newly created spec.md. Yeah, that's fine. It appears the specification file is created outside the project area. I'll correct this by creating the necessary directives within the project and moving the file. It's all fine. Looks hunky-dory, right? So refining the file creation, generating the specification file. And now it's giving me some options. Very interesting. Let's see what it's asking. Okay. uh, so it's asking me, I've created the specification and quality checklist, which by the way will be so on your left hand panel. If you look at the specifications, okay, it has created a new branch called 001 tutorial website scaffold. Since this is a new app and it understands it's a new app, it has started with the number one. So this is a new branch that it has created. It has some checklists, but what essentially it is asking is, it's asking the what it's asking some questions back. So essentially it's asking for some clarity. What do you want here? So, okay, so it's asking what are the key elements of the modern design in and mission, and it's giving me some options. It should be either, it should be a dark theme, um, and it gives some implications. A light theme, this creates a more energetic and engaging user experience. It can be a brutalist design with raw exposed elements, or it can be a custom answer. So I'll just say option B. So I just need to type B. It's interesting how these things work, isn't it? It's a sort of to and fro interaction. It is actually as if I were actually talking to a developer sitting right in front of me. So essentially, the developer is asking me, "Hey, what should this feature look like, or how should this page look like? You're not told me what I should do with this." Brilliant. And there it is done. So it has created a feature specification for the modern tutorial website and ensured its quality. And the branch name is 001 tutorial website scaffold spec file path checklist results. I'm not going through everything, but essentially it has created your specs there. Okay, if I wanted, I could just open it. So not wanted, I should actually be opening it. Okay, and let me minimize this. So this is my spec that it has created. So it has created some user stories there. As a new visitor, I want to see a visually appealing land page with a featured tutorial so that I can quickly understand what the site is about and get engaged. It is giving me some. And the good thing about this is that if you are a product owner, right, and if you're using SpecKit, it's very easy for you to create a user stories. Essentially, you need to just copy paste this, right? So it is creating a feature. It is creating stories for you. So your work is made quite easy there. So the acceptance scenarios, go through the acceptance scenarios. It has created the second user story, browse episodes, user story 3, learn about the site, and it has given some priorities. If I wanted, I could interchange these things. It's given some functional requirements. The system must display a landing page, very good. Um, yeah, this looks fine. I mean, I'm not going to go through all of this, but in a real case scenario, in an enterprise environment, you would need to actually go through all of this. You would need to take the pain to review each and every single line the AI assistant has generated for you. right? Clarifications. So it has a clarification. What are the key elements? Yeah, which we answered, right? I've just mentioned that it should be a light theme and a more playful layout. Excellent. Now, the logical next step is to create the plan. Okay, but I have an optional step here whereby I could ask it to do a clarify, which essentially means it will go through all my specs and look for any ambiguities and come back with any questions that needs answering. Okay. So essentially, this this is one of the optional enhancements that you can use for quality and confidence, and this is the command that I'm talking about, spec-it.clarify, which is what we will be trying to do now. Okay, so let me maximize this and let me do a spec-it dot clarify, right? So what it's essentially doing here is it will read the spec.md file and trying to figure out anything that's not very clear. And this is not something you would always need to do, but this is recommended. So it's just an extra layer of quality check on what your AI assistant is actually producing there. And it has come up with the first question. Okay, so what's the first question it is asking? It's about video hosting. The specification defines an episode with the video URL, but it's unclear how this video should be hosted and displayed. What we'll need to know: how will the tutorial videos be hosted and displayed? Yeah, good question. Where should it be hosted? So it has given some options. It's self-hosted. It's a YouTube video embeds. The so I'll say it is option B. Okay. You know what, let's go with option A, because that's the easiest thing to do, right? I do not want this demo to drag on forever. And essentially it has said that all critical ambiguities in the specification have been resolved. Now if you're using clarify, remember to do it before you run the plan command, which is what builds the implementation plan. Okay. So the next thing that we'll be doing is we'll be running the plan command. So it is spec spec kit plan. Okay. And as the name says, execute the implementation planning workflow using the plan template to generate design artifacts. So let me select that, and I could tell it any additional things that I want for the plan. Okay, so I'm just saying I'm going to use next.js with static site configuration, no database. Um, so I do not want any database. I do not want any complexities because this is just a demo. Okay, so I'm clearly stating no databases. The database is embedded in the content for the mock episodes. Ensure the site is responsive, and I'm also saying make sure that it's ready for viewing in the mobile. Okay, that should be sufficient. And it's done with the plan. So essentially it has it has created these new files. As you can see, specs under specs 001 tutorial website scaffold. This is the one. It has created the plan.md, the research.md, the data model. So what is the data model going to be? If you wanted, you could just have a look into it. Does the research notes, some quick start, so guide to running the application locally, brilliant, right? And the contracts, so essentially a directory for the API contracts, and this is not applicable since this is a static site. So, but if it were a API driven site, you would find your schemas defined within the contracts. Since this is a static site, it does not have any API, so that folder would be empty, right? So what it's now suggesting is that you can now implement it by running the spec.tasks. But before that, we can run another optional command to do a quality check, which is spec kit checklists. Okay, so this one right here, uh, right? So generate a custom checklist for the next current feature. So essentially, what it does is it will do a recheck. It will consult the constitution, make sure that everything is in order. So it will check for consistency, quality, and all the bells and whistles there. So let me select this and let me press enter. And it's back with some questions there, right? So this is always a good thing that you run this quality checks, even though it's optional, because it's always a way of refining your application and essentially making it better. So you have a checklist focus. What is the primary goal of this checklist? So this is something I missed. So when you run the command, you could usually give it you would do slash specify dot checklist, and then you would give it something like UX, so that the AI assistant understands what it needs to check, what it needs to validate against. But it's clever enough to understand that I missed this option, and it's asking me, what do you need to check against? Do you need to check against the UX, user experience, and visuals, the performance, the accessibility? What exactly do you want me to check? So I'll say I want user experience. Okay, so I'll say option A. It's brilliant, isn't it? The way this things work, and it's evolving. You can see it's creating the checklist, and it's done. So it has created the checklist, which would be under specs 001 scaffold checklist. So you have your checklist. So this is a new directory that has been created, and you have your ux.md. So requirement clarity is the light theme used. Remember, we had asked you to use a light theme. Check for requirements completeness, quite a few things. Go through it. Okay, if you're serious about your app, go through it. Do not be me, what I'm trying to do here. Now let us go to the next step, which is doing the tasks, asking it to build the tasks, right? Create an actionable dependency order tasks.md. Okay, so this is what it will be using to implement the features. So I'll ask it to build the tasks, and it is done. So it has a total of 18 tasks which have been generated, and it's defined in the tasks.md file. So if you went to the tasks.md file, you can see all the tasks, T001, 2, 3, and should be all the way till 18. Okay, so these are the tasks that it has defined. I'll trust it for the time being. Now what I will do is I will run another optional quality check, which is the analyze command. So this one here. Okay, so this is what I'll run. So this will cross check the artifact consistency. It will essentially go through the constitution, your plan, your tasks, your specs, and make sure that everything is aligned, so it makes sense out of everything. So let's try running that. Let me go here and let me do spec kit. Where are you? Yes, let me do a clarify. Oh, sorry, an analyze, right? So we did the clarify. This is the analyze, and this should be done before you run your implement command. Brilliant. So it has given me some beautiful metrics saying that the total requirements are 17, total is 18, coverage is 100%, which is quite good. So requirement key, it has a task, it has mapped all the tasks. Now this is something you could very well use for your requirement traceability matrix, right? So it has done a beautiful job. Well done, well done. Right? Now the final task is, of course, we'll ask it to implement whatever is there. Right? So it actually suggests that as the next step. It is spec-kit.implement. So let me do a spec-kit.implement implementation plan, and this is the step that will take some time because it essentially has to build the app. So it would ask you for some questions in between. So I have scanned checklists and found the following total. So incomplete as incomplete is checklist, and it helped refine the visual and user. Do you want to proceed with the implementation? Yes, I'll say yes. Not sure why the checklist for ux.md failed, but anyway, doesn't matter. Okay, it wants to create. It wants to run npx essentially. Yes, I'll allow. I'll always allow. Real life scenario, real corporate world, do not always allow. Okay, just go through all these commands. Be patient. Anyway, it's doing 80% of the work for you. Just need to review it. Always think of it as a junior developer who's just learning, who will make mistakes. You can see that when it makes it encounters errors, the AI assistant is smart enough to work around its way. It will see what else options it has. Yeah. So it says I'm currently unable to initialize the next.js project automatically due to security restrictions. So it says please run the following command at terminal directory, right? So I will run this command. It wants me to run this command, and then it has asked me to continue. So what I will do is I will open that directory and I'll run that command and I'll come back here. Okay. So just executed the command using PowerShell, and it asked me a couple of questions like, would you like to use React compiler? I said yes. Would you like to use TurboPack? I said yes. And it's creating the next.js app within demo underscore tutorial site directory front end. And it has successfully completed it. So let me minimize this. Let me go back here and I'll just say continue, right? And now it should work. It's a beautiful collaboration of the implementer, the AI assistant, Spec Kit. I love this. Absolutely love it. This will take some time. Okay, so it will try to do some things. It will try to do workarounds for things it cannot do, and for things that it absolutely cannot do, it will ask us for help then. So be patient. It's not that long as time. You can see how much time it is taking now. It's taken 1 minute, around 10 seconds. So I'll pause the video here, okay, and I'll come back once it has finished everything. Seems I've run into an error here. Okay, it says the input count and token exceeds the maximum number. So input count token count has exceeded. I'll talk about this a little later. Okay, so what I will now say is just say continue implementation. Yeah, my spelling is horrible, but it's clever enough to understand, hopefully understand what I meant. Like, and you can see as it completes each task, it marks it down as complete. So it marks an X against the task, essentially saying that this task has been completed. So there are 18 tasks. I can see by now it is around 75% done. So it has completed 13 tasks out of the 18 tasks that we have mandated it to do. So let us wait a little bit more. So it's almost done. Right. So now it's saying this is the last task, by the way, npm run build. So I'll say yes. Please run it. Let's see what happens. Most of the times it will run into error. Let's see if it got it right this time, the first time around. If it runs into an error, just say, please resolve the error. Okay. Yeah. It says, yeah, there's a PowerShell error, but it's trying to work its way around it. Let's see what it does. Yeah, it says I cannot do it because there is a security policy implementation that does not allow me to do it. Can you run this from this directory? So what I'll do is I'll open a new uh, terminal. Right, so I am in demo. Let me see. Yeah, it needs me to go into the front end directory and run this and come back. Okay, so I'll change the directory to front end, and I will do npm run build. And has thrown an error. Okay, so what I will do is I'll just copy paste this and I'll go back to the terminal and I'll say got the following error. So it will try to rectify that error. Now it has rectified the error and it's asking me to run the command again, which I will do. I will do that. So okay, let me run that command again. Let's see what happens now. And I think it has been pre-rendered as static, right? So I think it has been it has compiled it successfully. It has run the build successfully. Now let me try running it. Okay, so I'll do npm run dev. Let me see what happens there. Yeah, it's starting. Okay, it says it's ready. Fingers crossed. Will it work or not? Time of truth. Okay. And it has worked, right? So the site looks kind of empty. If I wanted, I could go in and say add this and this elements to it, make it more colorful. But let me see if the buttons work. Yeah, it has a root, it has turbo pack, it has some root info, right? The tutorial site, episodes. Yeah, the color scheme is not great. I mean, it is a washed out gray. Can hardly read it. So I could go back. I could essentially go back and ask it to correct the color scheme, correct the fonts. But I think in general, okay, it has the about section. It has let me see. Yeah, it has a facts section. The episodes are there, and the main page has just one episode, just as we asked to it. The color scheme is not that great, but again, this is something you could go back and refine. But essentially, it has produced something we asked it to generate. Okay, which is a modern looking playful website, tutorial website. On a landing page it should have one featured video and episodes, all the episodes. There should be a tab to it, there should be about page, there should be a fact. It has followed exactly what we have told it to do it. One thing that it might be lacking here is the color scheme, which could have been better, but this is something we have not specified, so I do not blame the Gemini coding assistant for it. Now, before I wrap up this episode here, what do I think of SpecKit here? I think it's an excellent tool to have in an environment where you are a large corporate, large enterprise, whereby quality checks are very strict and you need to product like top of the shelf product. So this is a top of the shelf product, no doubt about it. But sometimes it can be an overkill, as you would have noticed, because essentially it produces tons of documentation there, and it is painstaking to go through each and every document it has generated, uh, and it takes a long time to that. So even with this demo where we created a static web page, you would have noticed it took a long time. And to be fair, it needs to do that because it has so many options there, and it might not be everyone's cup of tea, if you know what I mean there. So there are other options out there. Uh, so something like Open Spec, which I'll discuss later, which might be better if you wanted to do a spec-driven development in a faster kind of way. So there are things like Cairo, there are things like Tessel framework, which is in the beta version. So these things are there. It is out there. There are other options out there. And another thing that I the, why I would not recommend SpecKit to everyone, why would I would say it's not everyone's cup of tea, is because it consumes humongous amount of your tokens. So if I just look into how many tokens Gemini has consumed for what I just demoed, it's quite big. Okay, so it has consumed, for the 2 Pro model, has consumed more than 29, more than 2 million input tokens, and output tokens it has generated 13,000. Similar figures you can see for Flash there. For Flashlight, it has taken 88,000 input tokens here. Now, if you are on a free version of Google Gemini, okay, uh, you would hit your ceiling pretty soon enough, because it provides you with 1 million tokens per day, and you would essentially run out of your tokens there. Since I am on the Pro tier, it has allowed me to actually go on with what I'm trying to do. So this is something that has a heavy usage, a heavy consumption rate there. But in case if you still wanted to use it, okay, if you still wanted to use SpecKit, and if you are using Gemini, the whole point why I use Gemini is because it's quite generous with its tokens, 1 million tokens per day, which should be enough normally. So if you run into a ceiling, what you need to do is just close it for the day and continue the next day. Just load Gemini again from the project folder. It will go through the SpecKit documents, through the .gemini documents, through its memory. It will understand where it was, and you can continue again. So it is a bit of inconvenience, but it's a workaround you have. You just need to push finishing your work to the next day. Okay, so this is just a pro tip to anyone who would run into this problem. And with that, I'm at the end of this episode. Thank you for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed this. And if you enjoyed, and if you found my work works for you, do consider like, subscribing, and sharing. So till we meet again, adios.